faithfully sharing valuable insights from the world's best books.
Hi there, this is Sally with Book Talk.
Today, we're diving into the book Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, written by Jack Weatherford, an American historian and anthropologist specializing in the Mongol Empire. And throughout history, there have been many great emperors, like Qin Shi Huang, who unified China, Alexander the Great, who conquered Eastern Europe and the Middle East, and Augustus, who built the Roman Empire and took over much of Europe.
But in terms of the shock and awe they delivered to the world, none of them likely measure up to the founder of the Mongol Empire.
Starting in the early 1200s, Genghis Khan led his Mongol horsemen to sweep across Eurasia. Back then, the world's strongest and richest powers, like the Jin dynasty, Southern Song, Khwarezma, the Arab Empire, and the Holy Roman Empire, all fell one by one to the Mongol invaders. At its peak, the Mongol Empire spanned 33 million square kilometers, almost double today's Russia, with a population of around 100 million people. And this was in ancient times, with crude travel and poor communication. Using only about 100,000 horsemen, Genghis Khan and his heirs conquered and governed this enormous land. How on earth did they manage that? For hundreds of years, historians have dug deep, trying to reveal the mysteries behind the Mongol Empire's rise. Today's book, Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, is a classic work in this field. Notably, the author Jack Weatherford isn't just a Mongol history expert, he's also an anthropology PhD, giving him deeper insight into Mongol behavior than most historians. Take, for instance, during a fight, Genghis Khan got an arrow in the neck and was bleeding heavily. Late that night, his guards slipped into the enemy camp and fetched a bucket of horse milk. That bucket of horse milk saved Genghis Khan's life. It's a well-known story, but there's a puzzling detail. The records show the guard got completely naked before sneaking in. Why would he do that? Drawing on his anthropology background, the author explains that being naked in public was deeply shameful for Mongols, so the enemy never imagined a guard of Genghis Khan would do it. And then, when he strolled in naked, the enemy thought he was just a guy getting up to pee, turned away quickly, acted like they didn't see him, letting the guard grab the milk without hassle. The book has plenty of such insightful takes, like the horse milk tale, offering fresh angles for a fuller understanding of Genghis Khan's legacy. I'll now cover this book in 4 parts. Part 1, The Empire's Prelude, Temujin's Remarkable Rise. Part 2, The Empire's Rise, Unifying the Mongolian Steppe and Sweeping Across Eurasia. Part 3, The Empire's Secrets, What Made the Mongols Invincible. Part 4, The Empire's Legacy, Why did the Mongol Empire collapse, and what did it leave for future generations? All right, let's begin with Part 1, The Empire's Prelude, Temujin's Remarkable Rise. One spring day in 1162, a little boy was born on a small hill in the eastern Mongolian steppe. His father named him Borjigin Temujin. Borjigin was the clan name indicating the boy belonged to the Borjigin family. Temujin was his given name, meaning iron-willed or unbreakable. If anyone had said then that this boy would conquer Eurasia and be remembered forever as Genghis Khan, they'd have been thought crazy. Because when Temujin was born, the Borjigin clan had declined, and his father depended on other tribes just to support the family. But even that meager existence couldn't last. When Temujin was 7, his father was killed by enemies. Why did this tragedy happen? It relates to the social structure of the Mongolian steppe. Back then, no unified Mongol tribe existed on the steppe. Mongols were divided into many small nomadic tribes. With harsh conditions and scarce resources, tribes constantly fought over pastures, livestock, and even people. Temujin's mother, Holin, was actually seized by his father from the Tatar tribe. She was the abducted one. Naturally resentful, the Tatars eventually found an opportunity to poison Temujin's father. With their provider gone, 2 widows and 7 young children remained. The tribe that sheltered them planned to abandon them, seeing them as unproductive mouths to feed. Yeah. So when the tribal chief held a sacrifice ceremony, they deliberately excluded Holun. By Mongol custom, this meant the family was effectively cast out. For 2 widows with 7 children, surviving the brutal Mongolian steppe was incredibly difficult. Temujin's mother Holun searched day and night for food. At their lowest point, the family survived on roots she dug up. Thanks to his mother's efforts, Temujin survived against all odds. That's why he revered her throughout his life. These hardships forged Temujin's defining characteristics. This is mainly reflected in 2 aspects. First, his unwillingness to remain subordinate. Not long after being exiled by the tribe, Temujin did a big thing, killing his half-brother Bektar. The reason? Mongolian historical records say Bektar snatched a lark and a small fish from Temujin, provoking his murderous intent. But it's hard to explain killing his brother over such a minor conflict. The author of this book believes the conflict between the brothers was actually about family leadership. Mongolian families practiced patriarchy, where the father had absolute authority over the children. When the father was gone, the eldest brother took over this role, deciding who hunted, who herded, and how food was distributed among siblings. Others had to obey. As the eldest son, after their father's death, Bektar naturally became the head of the household, giving orders to his younger siblings. Perhaps Bektar was disrespectful in his ways, or perhaps Temujin was naturally rebellious. Either way, Temujin always aimed to take his place. Once, when Bektar was sitting on a hill gazing at the steppe, Temujin sneaked up with his younger brother, ambushed him from both sides, and killed Bektar. Thus, Temujin took over the authority of the head of the household. From this incident, we can see that in a team, Temujin might temporarily hold a secondary role, but his eyes were always on the top position. He was born to be the leader. Second, possessing extraordinary personal charm and being skilled at finding allies, killing his brother violated Mongol morals. Theoretically, any Mongol tribe had the right to punish Temujin. Soon after, he was arrested, the tribal chief shackled him, ordered strict guard, and he was imprisoned. Temujin demonstrated extraordinary personal charm. He got along well with the guards and won their favor. Later, with their tacit consent or even help, he escaped. This was just a small test of his abilities. For an exiled family to establish themselves on the steppe, the urgent priority was to form alliances. Fortunate and bonding, Temucha met Jamuka. Since they were of similar age and shared a sense of loyalty, they quickly became good friends and even swore brotherhood. This improved Temujin's family situation because Jamuka's Jataran tribe was relatively powerful and provided some protection. Temujin also recruited 2 companions, Borchu and Jalmay, who later became famous generals. But at that time, Temujin was just a down-and-out guy, yet they willingly followed him. This shows Temujin was truly skilled at winning people over. At 16, Temujin married Borte from the Angirat tribe. Following Mongol wedding customs, his father-in-law gifted him a precious black sable coat, which Temujin couldn't bear to wear, instead thinking of an elder, Wang Khan. Back then, 3 major powers dominated the Mongolian steppe: the Naiman tribe in the west, the Tatar tribe in the east, and Wang Khan's Kariat tribe ruling the center. Years earlier, when Wang Khan schemed to seize the Kariat throne, Temujin's father had provided crucial support. With this connection, Temujin decided to restore ties between their families, securing himself a powerful protector. His golden ticket? That very sable coat. Sure enough, receiving the coat delighted Wang Khan, who adopted Temujin as his foster son. This meant the powerful Kariat tribe became protectors of Temujin's family. The value of this move soon became apparent. As mentioned earlier, raiding was rampant on the Mongolian steppe then, making small groups like Temujin's easy targets. One dawn, the Market tribe raided Temujin's family. The men escaped, but his mother and wife were captured. Temujin urgently sought Wang Khan's help and got it. Jamuka also sent troops.
Thus, Temujin defeated the Merkit tribe and rescued his family.
This victory also brought Temujin abundant spoils and slaves, lifting his family from poverty. Later, Temujin's family joined Jamuka's tribe. Through battles, Temujin honed his combat skills and leadership, while their living standards improved. But Temujin and Jamuka's alliance lasted near months. Simply put, two tigers can't share one mountain. Two leaders wanting supremacy couldn't coexist. In summer 1181, Temujin departed Jamuka with his followers. By then, Temujin was no longer that helpless boy. He led a vibrant force, and the Borjigin clan began its revival. In Part 2, I'll cover the empire's rise, unifying the Mongolian steppe and sweeping across Eurasia. Camping southeast of present-day Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, his tribe rapidly expanded as more followers joined. In 1189, the people elected Temujin as Khan. From then on, he developed the ambition to unify the Mongolian steppe, a dream that intensified with changing realities and ultimately came true. The most crucial driving forces came from three key events: avenge his father, falling out with his sworn brother, and turning against his foster father. First, avenging his father. Temujin's father was poisoned by the Tatars. He always wanted revenge but was too weak to act rashly. Fortunately, changes in the geopolitical situation created an opportunity. The Tatar tribe occupied the eastern steppe, bordering the Jin dynasty, established by the Jurchens. For years, the Jin used the Tatars to control the Mongolian steppe. But as the Tatars grew stronger, the Jin worried about their disobedience and instead supported Wang Khan's Kariet tribe as a counterbalance. And in winter 1296, the Jin urged Wang Khan to ambush the Tatars. Temujin joined the battle, plundering vast treasures. The Tatars' wealth astonished him. This wealth came from their trade with the Jin state. Temujin realized that to prosper, he must break out of the steppe toward thriving regions, like the Jin and southern Song. This spurred his resolve to conquer the Tatars. After years of war in 1202, Temujin achieved decisive victory. He executed all Tatar men taller than a cartwheel for vengeance, distributing the rest to strengthen his forces. Thus, Temujin replaced the Tartars as the Jin's partner, profiting greatly from trade and elevating his status. Next, the fallout with his sworn brother and foster father. Temujin's growing power deeply unsettled Jamuka. In 1190, Jamuka gathered 13 Mongol tribes to attack. Temujin was defeated and escaped. This battle won Jamuka the fight, but lost him the people's hearts. He ordered 70 large cauldrons set up to boil captives alive.
His aim was to annihilate enemies' bodies and souls for intimidation.
But such cruelty only made Temujin's forces resist desperately. No one wanted capture. Jamuka's brutality toward his own also caused disunity. Conversely, Temujin excelled at winning loyalty. More tribes abandoned Jamuka for him. Victory shifted quietly in 1201. Their armies clashed on the Hulumbur steppe, and Temujin triumphed completely. During this, what was Wang Khan doing? He sowed discord between Temujin and Jamuka, hoping they'd destroy each other so he could profit from their ruin. Unfortunately, Temujin grew stronger with each battle. By the time Wang Khan realized it, it was too late. Temujin was no longer the foster son needing protection, but instead demanded his old father's submission. Wang Khan refused. Thus, father and son became enemies. In 1203, Temujin defeated the Kariet tribe, and the next year, he defeated the Naiman, thus conquering the steppe's three great powers. The Tatar, Kariet, and Naiman tribes fell to Temujin one after another, while smaller tribes surrendered. The Mongol tribes were unified, and the Mongolian steppe achieved complete unity. In 1206, Mongol nobles held a grand assembly, founded the Great Mongol State, and elected Temujin as supreme leader with an honorific title. Genghis Khan means strong, fearless, and unshakable. By scale, 1206 Mongolia was already an empire, territory matching Europe, covering the Mongolian plateau, stretching north beyond Lake Baikal and west to modern Xinjiang. This land supported about 1 million nomads, 20 million livestock, and a formidable cavalry force. No one imagined this cavalry would sweep Eurasia over 60 years, building a world empire, a process divided into 2 stages by Genghis Khan's 1227 death. First, Stage 1. Nomadic necessity, fragility meant Mongolia couldn't be self-sufficient. Expansion was its only path. Siberia's northern forests held no appeal, leaving Genghis Khan only southeast and west options. Southeast lay the Jurchen-led Jin dynasty, ruling today's northeast China, North China, and most Inner Mongolia. For centuries, goods from central China to Mongolia passed through Jurchen hands, letting them control the steppe's economic lifeline. Thus, Mongolia's expansion required confronting the Jin first. In 1211, Genghis Khan struck. By then, the century-old Jin dynasty had chaotic governance, low morale, and an army that lost its Liao Song conquering edge. Facing Mongol cavalry, Jin troops retreated repeatedly. Their terrified emperor moved the capital from Beijing to Kaifeng overnight, barely clinging to survival. Next, Genghis Khan turned west to the Khwarezmian Empire, a vast realm stretching from Central Asia to the Black Sea, covering modern Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, and Iraq. This meant Khwarezma controlled East Asia, Western Europe trade routes, including the Silk Road. This was what Genghis Khan was determined to seize. In 1219, Genghis Khan launched his first Western expedition. Wherever Mongol cavalry went, Silk Road cities like Samarkand, Bukhara, and Tabriz fell one after another. The first Western campaign lasted 7 years. Mongol forces reached the Caucasus Mountains, initially shocking Eurasia, while Genghis Khan approached his life's end. In 1227, Genghis Khan died of illness during his campaign against the Western Shah, aged 66. He married nearly 40 wives and concubines, fathering countless children. 4 sons were recognized as heirs. On his deathbed, he appointed his third son, Ugadai, as successor. Thus began the Mongol Empire's second expansion phase. After consolidating power, Ugadai continued expanding south and west, eliminating Jin remnants and invading southern Song in the south, while launching the second Western expedition. In 1236, Mongol cavalry crossed the Volga River and launched fierce attacks on Russian principalities. Within 3 years, Mongol forces swept through Russia and Ukraine, capturing Moscow and Kiev, even pushing into the Hungarian plains. Had Ugadai not suddenly died, forcing withdrawal, Eastern Europe might have fallen too. Afterward, the Mongol Empire plunged into brief civil war over the Khan succession. In 1251, Genghis Khan's grandson Mongke ascended, stabilizing the situation. The next year, Mongke sent his brother Hulagu on the third Western expedition. Seeing Europe as too poor for profitable conquest, they targeted the Arab Empire instead, which had controlled the Arabian Peninsula, North Africa, and Persian Gulf trade for centuries. Mongols had long coveted this region. After 6 years of war, they captured the Islamic world's largest and wealthiest city, Baghdad, marking the Arab Empire's fall and essentially ending the Third Western Campaign. While Western expansion succeeded smoothly, the Southern Front became a protracted war. From the start of the Song Campaign in 1235 to the Battle of Yashan in 1279, the Southern Song regime held out for 45 years. Yet, in just over 60 years, Mongols wiped out Eurasian regimes and built an unprecedented empire, a staggering achievement. Remember, at their peak, Mongol forces numbered barely over 100,000. So the question arises, how exactly were the Mongols invincible? Part 3 will reveal all the secrets. Over the decades of sweeping across Eurasia, the Mongol army's biggest ace was their cavalry, fierce, tireless warriors who scared enemies stiff. The way Mongols raised cavalry was rooted in steppe tribal life, something other societies couldn't copy. In Mongolia, everyone, male or female, learned to ride as soon as they could walk. By age 4, kids galloped bareback without a saddle. They even stood on horseback jousting, trying to knock each other off, waiting till their legs grew long enough for stirrups. They practiced mounted archery and roping livestock with lassos. By their teens, Mongols were already seasoned riders, ready to be sent straight into battle. Agricultural societies could only pick adults for cavalry, losing to Mongol riders right from the starting line. Mongol cavalry's mobility left regular armies in the dust. Mongols could ride nonstop for days, carrying dried cheese, meat, and curds, eating and drinking on the move. When tired, they slept right on their horses. So when hundreds of thousands of Mongol cavalry mobilized, they needed no logistics, not even cooking fires. This made their movements super stealthy, always popping up where enemies least expected. Mongol cavalry also mastered little tricks, like hunters tying animal bones to horses' feet in winter so they could chase prey on frozen water. This skill seemed ordinary, but played a huge role at critical moments. During the Second Western Expedition, when Mongol cavalry reached the Volga River basin in autumn-winter, rivers froze, and Russian princes faced off against the Mongol army. They thought the Mongols would just despair at the river, but Mongol horsemen raced across the ice, appearing like a bolt from the blue before the Russian allies, causing a total collapse. If you thought cavalry was the Mongols' only strength, you're dead wrong. In wars against the Jim dynasty, Mongols mastered a big killer weapon, firearms, forming artillery units for siege warfare. In fact, many cities crumbled under Mongol bombardments, and Mongol cavalry even used firearms in open field battles. In April 1241, on the Polish-German border, Mongol cavalry faced the Polish-German Allied forces. After the fight began, Allied cavalry charged, briefly gaining the upper hand. Suddenly, the Mongols unleashed their firearms. The thunderous explosions and choking gunpowder smell threw the Allied cavalry into chaos. The Mongol cavalry counterattacked, crushing the Allies. Europeans had gathered their finest troops, cavalry from Polish Silesia, Germany, even the famed knightly orders, Teutonic, Templar, and Hospitaller. Yet 25,000 of 30,000 Allied troops perished. Henry II, Duke of Silesia, the commanding general, was beheaded by the Mongols. Now, some might ask, nomadic cavalry being formidable isn't exactly news. The Xiongnu in the Han Dynasty, Turks in Tang, Khitan and Jurchens and Song all had their golden ages, but none could conquer everyone they fought. So why did Mongol cavalry succeed? Credit Genghis Khan's reforms. They gave Mongol society unmatched organizational power paired with cavalry strength, making them invincible. In Genghis Khan's youth, raiding ran wild across the Mongolian steppe.
Today you raid my tribe. Tomorrow I raid his. The day after, he raids you.
This endless cycle aimed to plunder goods and people. So victors often just grabbed grain and women, letting the defeated escape and regroup for counterattacks. This low-level combat repeated endlessly, resulting in individually every Mongol was a skilled fighter, but they couldn't organize into an effective force. Genghis Khan recognized this early. Campaigning against the Tatars, he ordered looting only after destroying the enemy, with all spoils handed to him for redistribution. When troops looted without permission during war, Genghis Khan confiscated their spoils to enforce discipline. From then, Mongol cavalry shed their bandit image, transforming into a regular army focused on annihilating enemy forces.
This change seemed minor, but had astonishing effects.
Back then, many armies were obsessed with looting. Take the Crusades, organized by the Roman Catholic Church since the late 11th century, ostensibly to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslims. But in reality, the expeditions were filled with looting and slaughter. Crusaders sacked cities like Jerusalem and Constantinople, turning a faith-driven war into outright plunder. Facing such armies, Mongol cavalry developed a set of super-effective tactics. Usually they'd send out small units to clash with the enemy, then pretend to lose and retreat. Along the way, Mongols kept dropping valuables to lure enemies into chasing them. Once enemies entered the ambush zone, Mongol cavalry attacked full force, wiping them out from Central Asia to the Middle East, all the way to Eastern Europe. With this tactic, Mongols beat many foes, but Genghis Khan's reforms went way beyond that. They were broader and deeper. In the past, bloodlines and clans ruled Mongol society. The head of a family had absolute power, and the clan chief had absolute power over the clan. In other words, for ordinary Mongols, obeying family heads and clan chiefs came first. As for tribal leaders, they could take a back seat. Genghis Khan shattered that tradition. He divided Mongols into 95,000 household units, run by commanders he appointed. These commanders handled duties like allocating pastures, collecting taxes, and leading armies. And they had to obey Genghis Khan absolutely. Above the 1,000 household units, he set up 10,000 household units with commanders he personally picked. These had to be loyal, top generals, like Borchu, who followed him since boyhood. Take Mukhali, who earned huge merit in the war against the Jin dynasty. Genghis Khan also chose 10,000 warriors to form his imperial guard. Through these reforms, Genghis Khan concentrated power in his own hands as the Great Khan. The whole Mongol tribe became like a war machine, ruthlessly crushing every obstacle under the Great Khan's orders. In contrast, many of the Mongols' enemies had serious internal issues. They were even like scattered sand. When attacking the Jin dynasty, Mongols used the Khitans' resentment toward the Jurchens to stir up rebellion. And when invading Russia, Mongols sowed discord among the Grand Dukes to defeat them one by one. During the Third Western Expedition, the Arab Empire was in its late stages, on the verge of collapse, totally unable to unite as one. The Mongol army just sped up its downfall. In 1279, Kublai Khan led the Mongol army to conquer the southern Song, officially setting up the Mongol Empire's territory. The 4 Khanates and 1 empire, the Golden Horde occupying most of today's Russia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, the Il Khanate in the former Arab Empire's vast areas, the Ogaday Khanate in the western Mongolian steppe, and the Wuan Empire, covering nearly all of East Asia at its peak. The Mongol Empire spanned 33 million square kilometers, with about 100 million people, encompassing the world's wealthiest regions. So what impact did such a colossal empire have on human history? And how did it collapse? Part 4 explores this question. It's widely believed the Mongol expansion was filled with bloodshed. Countless died under their cavalry, cities destroyed. For ages, Genghis Khan was seen as a brutal beast who relished killing and destruction. But this book's author argues that while war is brutal, Mongol cruelty might have been exaggerated. This first relates to Mongol war strategy. After victories, they deliberately boasted about killings and plunder to spread panic and break enemy morale. And these exaggerations got retold and embellished by survivors until accepted as historical truth. And, however, Mongols treated commoners and elites differently. Obedient commoners were usually left alone, but royals, nobles, and the wealthy lost power, wealth, and lives, breeding deep hatred toward Mongols. Since these literate elites recorded Mongol history, they preserved accounts unfavorable to Mongols. Yet Mongols weren't the mindless demons their enemies portrayed. The author contends Mongol expansion had practical motives, seizing trade routes for wealth. Following the Silk Road, Mongol cavalry swept through Central Asia and the Middle East, conquering the trade-rich Khwarezma Kingdom and Arab Empire. Similarly, after tracing goods' origins, they destroyed the Jin and Southern Song dynasties, seizing the Silk Road's starting point. After the empire formed, regional rulers vigorously promoted trade. Livestock, horses, and dairy from North Asian steppes flowed into the Yuan Empire. Chinese silk, porcelain, and citrus reached Persia and the Middle East by land and sea. Spices, pearls, and camels flowed east. Eurasia became a vast trade network. End quote. As the saying goes, the same factor brings success and failure. This pan-Eurasian trade network spurred commerce and cultural exchange, but also amplified disasters like terrifying plagues. In the 1330s, the Yuan Empire was hit by the plague, losing half its population. Mongol merchant caravans then spread it across Eurasia. This was the Black Death that terrified Europeans. According to the author, from 1340 to 1400, over 75 million people died worldwide, averaging more than 1 million per year. The Black Death disrupted trade, destroyed agriculture, and drastically reduced the workforce. The author believes this was the direct cause of the Mongol Empire's collapse. In 1368, the Yuan dynasty, economic heart of the Mongol Empire, was overthrown by the Ming after failing to handle social chaos from disasters and turmoil. Before this, 2 of the 4 khanates had already met their end. The Golden Horde and Shagata Khanate survived, but were too overwhelmed to maintain the vast imperial system. Thus, the Mongol Empire ended, yet its legacy endured, like the Ming and Qing dynasties inheriting the Yuan's territories and institutions. Modern Iran formed from the Ilkhanate's foundation, while today's Russia emerged from the Golden Horde. This continuity had broader impact than linguistic, religious, or lifestyle influences. All right, that concludes Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. The reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.